Meet Ethan. He's in the 8th grade, and if you looked up science nerd in the school yearbook, his picture would probably be right there. Big glasses perched on his nose, a slightly too eager smile, and a collection of science-themed t-shirts that would make Bill Nye proud. While most obsessed with sports, video games, or the latest TikTok trends, Ethan was busy in his basement, building robots out of spare parts and memorizing the periodic table. He wasn't exactly the most popular kid in school, but he was smart, undeniably kind, and, well. Now, let's talk about Lily. She's a 7th grader, and if Ethan was the poster child for science nerds, Lily was the epitome of quiet, shy, and good. She always sat in the back of the class, her head bent over her books, her hand raised only when she was absolutely sure of the answer. Lily was the always followed the rules, always did her homework, and always tried her best to be polite and thoughtful. But underneath her quiet exterior, Lily was a bundle of nerves, especially when it came to science class. It wasn't that she wasn't smart, it was just that the subject seemed so intimidating. All the formulas, strange experiments, and big words she could barely pronounce. Science wasn't her favorite subject, and lately, she'd been struggling to keep up. One fateful day, their science teacher, Mr. Harrison, decided to mix things up. Project, a collaborative presentation on the solar system, and to ensure everyone got a chance to work with someone new, he was assigning partners. As Mr. Harrison read out the names, Lily's heart started to pound. She hated group projects, especially in science. And then she heard it. Ethan Miller. Ethan's first thought, yes, finally, someone who might appreciate my extensive knowledge of planetary rings. But then he remembered that most kids just glazed over when he started talking about Lily's first thought, oh no, Ethan Miller, the science whiz. I'm going to mess this up for sure. The bell rang, and Lily nervously approached Ethan after class. He was already surrounded by a small group of kids, animatedly discussing the latest science fair. Lily hesitated, then tapped him on the shoulder. Hi, Ethan, she said softly. I'm Lily. We're partners for the solar system project. Ethan turned around, his eyes widening behind his glasses. Oh, hey Lily. Yeah, the solar already got some awesome ideas. I was thinking we could build a scale model with working lights and… Lily's eyes glazed over. That sounds great, she managed to say. When should we meet? How about tomorrow after school? My place? We can use my basement lab, Ethan said. Lily gulped. Your lab? The next day, Lily found herself standing in front of Ethan's house, a slightly dilapidated Victorian with a satellite dish on the roof. She rang the doorbell, and Ethan's mom, a friendly woman, ushered her inside. Ethan's downstairs in his laboratory, she said, winking. Lily cautiously made her way down the creaky wooden stairs and into the basement. Overwhelming. Wires, circuit boards, half-finished robots, and stacks of science books filled every corner of the room. In the middle of it all, Ethan was hunched over a workbench, soldering something with intense concentration. Welcome to my humble abode, Ethan said, looking up with a grin. Prepare to be amazed by the wonders of science. Their first study session was, well, awkward. Ethan talked a mile a minute about the planet and various astronomical phenomena, using terms like Kepler's laws and gravitational forces. Lily nodded along, trying to keep up, but most of it went right over her head. Ethan, sensing her confusion, finally paused. Am I going too fast? He asked. Lily bit her lip. A little, she admitted. I'm not really. That… Ethan's face fell. Oh, he said. Well, maybe this project was a bad idea. Lily's heart sank. She was about to agree when she saw the disappointment in Ethan's eyes. He really cared about this project. And maybe, just maybe, she could learn something from him. No, she said, surprising herself. Let's try again. But maybe you could explain it in a can understand? Ethan's face lit up. Really? You mean it? Okay, how about we start with something simple, like, why is the sky blue? And so, their study sessions began to evolve. Ethan realized that he needed to slow down into smaller, more manageable pieces. He started using analogies, drawing diagrams, and even building models to help Lily understand the concepts. He discovered that he actually enjoyed teaching and that Lily was a surprisingly good student once she got over her initial nervousness. Lily, in turn, started to come out of her shell. She asked questions, offered suggestions, challenged Ethan's ideas from time to time. She discovered that science wasn't as scary as she thought, and that Ethan, despite his quirks, was actually a pretty good teacher and a pretty good friend. They built a volcano model that erupted with a bit too much enthusiasm, covering Ethan's basement in baking soda and vinegar. They created a silly science rap to help memorize the element table, complete with ridiculous dance moves, and they spent hours poring over books and websites, learning everything they could about the solar system. As the presentation date drew closer, Lily started to get nervous again. Public speaking was her biggest fear, and the thought of standing in front of the class, talking about planets and stars. I can't do this, Ethan, she said, her voice trembling. I'm going to freeze up. I just know it. Ethan put a hand on her shoulder. Hey, it's okay, he said. We'll practice. We'll go over it again and again until you feel comfortable. And I'll be right there, in the audience, cheering you on. And so they practiced. Ethan coached her on how to speak clearly, how to make eye contact, inject a little humor into her presentation. He helped her create flashcards, write notes, and even develop a few silly jokes to break the ice. Finally, the day arrived. Lily stood backstage, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear Mr. Harrison introducing her and Ethan. She took a deep breath. Oops, my apologies. I got cut off there. Here's the rest of the script to complete the 23-minute narration. She took a deep breath, squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, and then stepped out onto the stage. Ethan was right there, in the front row, giving her a thumbs up. Lily managed a weak smile and began. Good morning, everyone, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Today, Ethan and I are going to be talking about the... She took another deep breath and launched into her presentation. At first, she was stiff and awkward, reading directly from her notes. But as she went on, she started to relax. She remembered Ethan's advice, made eye contact with the audience, and even cracked a few jokes. Ethan watched from the front row, beaming with pride. He could see that Lily was nervous, but she was doing great. She was speaking clearly, confidently, and with genuine... When they finished, the class erupted in applause. Mr. Harrison gave them an applause, and even a few of the popular kids gave Lily a high five. After class, Lily found Ethan waiting for her outside the door. You were amazing, he said, his eyes shining. Lily blushed. Thanks, Ethan, she said. I couldn't have done it without you. From that day on, things started to change for both Ethan and Lily. Ethan realized that he had a knack for teaching and a passion for helping others. He started tutoring other students in science and even joined the school's science club. He was still a nerd, but he was a more confident, Lily, in turn, discovered that she was braver and more capable than she thought. She started speaking up more in class, joining the debate team, and even trying out for the school play. She was still shy, but she was a more confident, more assertive shy girl. And as for their relationship, well, it continued to evolve. They remained study buddies, of course, but their study sessions became less about science and more about everything else. Dreams, their fears, their hopes for the future. They laughed, they cried, and they supported each other through thick and thin. One sunny afternoon, as they were walking home from school, Ethan stopped and turned to Lily. Lily, he said, his voice suddenly serious. I have something to tell you. Lily's heart skipped a beat. What is it, Ethan? Ethan took a deep breath. I really like you, he said, not just as a friend, but more than that. Lily's eyes widened. She had been secretly harboring a crush on Ethan for months, but she never thought he felt the same way. I like you too, Ethan, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan smiled, a wide, goofy, utterly adorable smile. So, does this mean we're, Lily giggled. I guess so, she said. Ethan grinned and took her hand, and as they walked off into the sunset, hand in hand, they knew that their accidental study buddy relationship had turned into something truly special. And that's the story of Ethan and Lily, the science nerd and the shy girl who discovered that sometimes the most unexpected partnerships can lead to the most amazing